the question is, how do you cut through all the zombie lore that exists out there with your zombie film? Like, what's going to be so special and different about this? And for me, it was always about the thematic, of each one that she encounters, making that unique unto itself, and from a sound design level, from a physical design level, but also just what these poor souls are going through.
David Crow here with Den of Geek, and I'm here with Daisy Ridley,
Hello.
Zak Hilditch, as well as Mark Cole-Smith to discuss We Bury the Dead. I think a good place to begin is that I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a very original twist on a zombie movie, but I was curious, do y'all consider it a zombie movie?
Well, that's how we've been selling the movie. It's very easy to say, what's your movie about? And we just say, it's a Daisy Ridley zombie movie. And people immediately can just go, oh, yeah, I'd see that. As you've seen the movie, there's a lot more going on. And there's many ways you could sell this movie. It's a movie about grief. It happens to have zombies in it. It's a movie about isolation. It's a movie about guilt, redemption. It just so happens to be set against this canvas of a larger-than-life situation, which are the kind of movies like 28 Days Later that I've always loved ever since I've been making films, and just ordinary person caught in an extraordinary situation. That's sort of my my bread and butter, and this is like that on steroids.
Well, in that situation, Daisy is your character who is working in a body retrieval unit, and could you talk about what she's going through right now and what that job is like?
So Ava's sole purpose in the movie is to find her husband. She knows her husband was on the island of Tasmania when this cataclysmic event happened, but she does not know what she's going to find because, as we quickly learn in the movie, a lot of people were killed, but a lot of people were not killed, and they are somewhere in between. So she, honestly, as a means to get to him, joins the body retrieval unit, which is volunteers going in and trying to find people, notify families, all that sort of stuff. A lot of people are seeking their own goodbyes too. So it's very personal in a very big way because everyone part of the body retrieval unit has probably lost someone. So she joins with that, and then she goes on a bit of a journey and has to battle a few other things along the way, ultimately to try and find her husband, but she is also seeking her own. She's reconciling things she has done. So she is trying to say goodbye to what her marriage, what's left of her marriage, and also what is her husband.
And I understand you were sent the script and you basically said yes within 48 hours. What about this really just jumped to you?
Well, I'm a quick reader. Apparently. Firstly, I'm always like, if I didn't read quickly, someone else is going to read it and take it. I loved it. I remember where I was when I was reading it. I thought it was such a beautiful, to Zak's point, to me, this film is about grief and watching someone who is so desperately trying to find an answer, even though she doesn't know what that answer is going to be, is so human and understandable. And the backdrop of the zombies, which in some ways are representative of Ava, she's in this moment in between. She's neither here nor there. Emotionally, she's trying to get to the next place. So I just thought all of it was fantastic. Obviously a fan of Zak, and then an amazing cast and crew shooting in Australia. What could be better?
She's looking for absolution for her grief, and I guess, do you think that's possible going on a journey like that?
That's an interesting question. I think what's interesting about playing Ava is she's so pushed by shame. There is so much that she is sorry for. So yeah, she's seeking absolution in a number of different ways. And she at least gets some version of an answer at the end of her journey.
Since we're talking also about this apocalyptic setting, Zak, were you at all inspired by, I know you began working on this in 2017, but did COVID at all inspire you in the way certain governments reacted to that when making this movie?
No, I actually started writing it in Starbucks at the Grove in Los Angeles, 2019, just before the world ended. It was a bit of a different script back then, and the zombies sort of found their ways into the life of the film. Like after subsequent drafts, they sort of like were calling me, put me in and see what happens. And once I did, just the theme and everything, it just all started to click really in a really profound way for me. And then we were off to the races. But yeah, it was sort of like the initial idea and going through the putting pen to paper was just before the pandemic hit, and then it was a few years of drafts and redrafting and writing is rewriting before we then were able to shoot this exactly last year. We were halfway through the shoot this time a year ago.
Watching it, I appreciated that we're in an apocalypse, but you captured a drudgery that we all would recognize of the day to day of, okay, so there's zombies. What else can go wrong? And on that note, Mark, I do want to bring your character into this. You play Riley, who discovers Ava on the side of the road, and how would you describe their dynamic?
Look, Riley is posted in the south of Tasmania. Tasmania is the one state that's off the continent of Australia, so it's an island off an island at the end of the world, and I think it's an appropriate setting for the apocalypse. He's posted at the southern district of the island. Most of the BRU, the Body Retrieval Unit, hasn't got there yet. Ava certainly shouldn't be down there, and so there's some formalities about them being civilians in this area that's problematic. What Riley notices quite quickly is that Ava is on a journey that sort of mirrors his own, and that he's trying to reconcile the loss and the grief and the guilt that he's going through after this event. And I think that it draws them together, and it just, without giving anything away, makes for a really interesting third act.
I also want to be careful about without giving too much away, but do you think the dynamic between your characters represents a kind of regression we're seeing in the culture right now, and a little bit after things fall apart, how people try to remake their relationships in more antiquated ways?
Interesting. I don't think I see it like that. No, I think actually, to me, how Ava views Riley is very representative of the very human understanding that someone's grief can become desperation, and in and of itself can become terrifying when someone is desperately seeking something. Ava has a lot of understanding for what Riley's going through, and of course the situation develops into a spot that is not so understandable anymore. But for a lot of what Riley is saying, Ava is totally understanding of. As Mark said, they are mirroring stories in some ways. They both are seeking a goodbye in whatever capacity that is. And the thing that felt honestly so scary for me in that sequence was the feeling of, I know why he's doing this. And he might not be going around it in the most, together way, but she gets it.
There's also something too about Riley I found interesting was, given his military background, this is a man who's used to control. He's trained his life to be in control of situations and to be able to engage, and he just has no control anymore. He's got no control. And it's really interesting watching this person have to go through that huge polarization. I think it makes for some fun on-screen time.
At the same time, Zach, this really is a tense monster movie. What about the zombie genre did you want to keep, and what did you maybe want to upend?
Yeah, the question is, how do you cut through all the zombie lore that exists out there with your zombie film? Like, what's going to be so special and different about this? And for me, it was always about the thematic, of like, again, giving nothing away, but how we treat the zombies in the film reflects very much Ava's journey through the film. And once that was also a palpable part of the storytelling, I was just off to the races. And then it was just about each one that she encounters making that unique unto itself, and from a sound design level, from a physical design level, but also just what these poor souls are going through, just like Ava's going through, just like Riley's going through, just like Brenton Thwaites' character Clay's going through.
Did you want to explore maybe the evolution of zombies in a way we have not seen before?
Oh, absolutely. Like I didn't want to do what had been done before. So it was like, yes, you have to honor the law to an extent. You have to give people and an audience enough meat on the bone that understand what they're experiencing, but then it's your job to ratchet that up in a different way and have fun with it and play with it from a different angle. And that's exactly what we set out to do. So you're making a zombie movie, you can't reinvent the wheel completely, but you want to just put your stamp on it just enough to make an everlasting impression in the genre canon.
And I think I can say, yeah, it begins because of the U.S. government accidentally dropping an EMP over Tasmania.
Whoops.
Were you maybe...
Okay, it's Tasmania.
Now, as we've established, you've been writing and working on this for some time, but were you surprised at how eerily prescient the atmosphere in this movie is becoming?
No, I've got a real knack for that. I was also writing a pandemic on a plane movie before COVID, and that put an end to that. Whereas, luckily, this wasn't too close to the reality of some of the horrors of the world we're currently living in. But yeah, even just the sense of fire and burning things that we have in the movie, like just with what happened recently in California, it's like, we had to create ours through like VFX and like just be very careful, meticulous with our drone shots and how we were going to convey that destruction. And then all of a sudden on your phone, you're just looking at like things that are 10 times more intense. You just never know like how prescient these things are going to be.
And again, I really appreciate how you dig into almost the banality of it all, like of the zombies, of the way authority reacts. Like there's a line where they use in the movie the line when someone comes back from the dead, they're coming online. An authority figure says, and we'll give them the dignity they deserve. And yeah, if you could talk about capturing the daily verisimilitude of that.
Yeah, I mean, my job as the writer is to just always think about, but what would really happen? And my upbringing and my life experiences led me to, okay, my version of how the military and Australia would deal with something on this magnitude in Tasmania is exactly how it's presented in the movie. Now, they might react in a different way, but I just sat and thought, what would really happen and what pickle am I putting Ava in here with how this is being dealt with? So that banality is important because, you want that sense of realism, given that it's a zombie film. You let the zombies do the larger-than-life other part of the canvas. But yeah, that was just sort of the intention.
Performance-wise for Ava too, and Clay certainly, who Ava goes on a lot of the journey with, there is an awful sort of drudgery about that too. She is in deep, deep grief, not knowing what it is that has happened to her husband. But the reality is she has joined the body retrieval unit, and they have to account for bodies. So even the sort of drudgery of what they're doing, which is so awful and hideous and emotional. But even talking to Zak about that, it has to become every day because otherwise you just couldn't cope.
I appreciate how this movie is very layered in a way that really surprised and disturbed me at some points. And Daisy, why do you think audiences embrace, maybe even more so than ever, genre to still tell original stories and to see stories that deal with thorny concepts about everyday life?
I mean, I think for me, and Mark, sorry to steal what you said earlier, but so much of this film is about humanity. The zombies are almost human. They look like our friends and family do. It's just that there is something missing or something gained, however it is you want to describe what it is that's going on with them. So it's close enough to reality that you are in it, but far enough away that it's sort of entertaining in a way that doesn't feel too close. But by virtue of how the zombies were created, I think it feels horribly human, even though it's a sort of larger-than-life situation. There's something about this, I think, that is really going to appeal. And then, of course, the moments of laughter where you really need a break in that tension is always helpful.
On that note, Mark, what do you hope audiences take away when they see it at the premiere?
Yeah, look, I hope they just enjoy going on the ride and the emotional roller coaster that we've put together. And I hope they can appreciate that it really is a zombie film that stands on its own in the genre. And I think that's like a really cool thing to be a part of. Yeah.